Hi, everyone. My name is Gina Urzi, and I am an executive coach here at Confluent Health. I'll let Allison introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Allison McManus. I am also an executive coach with Confluent. And so as we transition, we just want to thank you, Randy and Spencer. That was really informative. My background is in education, not in physical therapy, and it made me interested in travel therapy. So thank you. So as we transition, just want to invite everybody maybe to take a breath. We're sort of shifting gears. An important part of the way that we think about our job as executive coaches is to really support you in your self-awareness. So maybe just taking the deepest breath you've taken today, feeling your feet on the ground. Yeah. And pivoting as we transition to talk about what I will say up front, I think is the hoax of work-life balance. So Gina, we're going to make this a little more interactive because we really want you all to walk away, not just with information about the company, but also with a better sense of your own desires around how to craft a sustainable career. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Gina, for our check-in.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. So those that are on, and for those who are watching this recorded, please write down your thoughts on this as well. But for those of you that are on this right now, currently, in the chat, take a moment and either write down a word, a statement, or a phrase, or a sentence of what would a healthy work-life balance look like, sound like, or feel like to you?
Apologies, I shared the wrong slide, but now we're here. Okay. And in full transparency, I've never used this Q&A feature. So I dropped a question in the Q&A, y'all, and it says you have the opportunity to respond to it.
Yeah.
So if you open that Q&A thought bubble, I think you can add a comment onto that question.
While we have people, oh, go ahead, Allison.
I think the only people that can answer that question is the hosts.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, then why don't we just have you think about it? And Allison, I'm going to ask you, when you think about work-life balance, what comes up for you?
I have a sense of self that transcends simply the work that I do, my sense of productivity, my sense of accomplishment, that like I know who I am in addition to all the things that I accomplish.
Right. Thank you.
What would you say, Gina?
When I think of work-life balance, it's instead of the pressure and the push of, I remember when I'm an occupational therapist, when I was in OT school and I was pushing and trying to get it all done and working and showing up for family and responsibilities. The push, there might be a little bit of a push, but it's not this overwhelming feeling. And it's this feeling of, yeah, I can get it all done. I might have a lot, but it's there. It's manageable.
Yeah.
So we're able to get some answers added. So
great. A couple. It's working. All right.
Yay.
Yeah, peaceful time for hobbies, family, friends outside of work.
Energizing. Yeah.
Yes, being able to do what I like and work at the same time.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Thanks, Gail. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So I will, in full transparency, share with you all that the first time someone mentioned self-care to me in a work setting, I laughed, which I think that was 15 years ago. The culture of work and life, I think, was much different. And as somebody who was a high achiever, I was a college athlete, I had this sense of self that like, I can do everything and I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about me, sort of sense. And that was the first year that I began waking up at 3 a.m. in overwhelming anxiety because I was like, I have all these things to get done. I want to execute them perfectly. I want everyone to know how competent I am. And that was not a sustainable way to live. And so part of what I appreciate about this conversation is that we are thinking about not just what's a career that you can feel proficient and competent and impactful in, but how do you actually make that career one that is sustainable, that you're not going to go out right in like a blazing flames, like a dying star. And so what I appreciate so far, I joined Confluent in January, but what I've appreciated is there are a lot of resources to support you in your personal and your professional growth to be able to make this a more sustainable career. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I believe to be the hoax of work-life balance, and then Gina is going to take us through a little bit of an interactive activity for you to be able to apply this to your current experience and your different commitments and obligations and agreements. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to undo all of these animations again, and that's going to be just fine. Okay, so I think oftentimes people think of work-life balance as a noun instead of a verb. And when we think about work-life balance as a noun, it is a thing that we are trying to find. Like it's a thing outside of ourselves that if we can just locate it and attain it and hold on to it, then we will be able to experience peace. Then we will be energized. Then we'll be able to do the things we like and work at the same time. And I think the reality is that work-life balance is not something that is fixed, right? It is a verb. It requires us to be active and to be discerning about our capacity in a given season of our life. And that requires us to recalibrate. And so I like to think about, we'll look at this visual. We see the scale, right? I sort of think it's ridiculous that work and life are the two things on the scale. Work is a part of your life. And so I think this visual is a little bit more supportive because life is this totality of you, and work is one part of that. In addition to your family and your health and your spirituality and your partnership and play and school. And when we believe that this is not a moving ecosystem, where we don't actually honor that at some phases of your life, some of these are going to require more time and energy. If we think they're fixed and that we're going to be able to give the same amount of energy to each part of this ecosystem, we are not going to create a sustainable lifestyle. Because each of these things will keep growing, and you see that that life in the background is eclipsed. Like literally your vitality, your life force, your ability to enjoy yourself in these different facets of your life becomes compromised. So there's a framework that we like to use at Confluent when we think about this. We pull a lot of our frameworks and resources from an organization called the Conscious Leadership Group. Gina has done a lot of training with them. But the framework we want to offer for thinking about this concept, flawed concept of work-life balance, is the 4 pillars of integrity. Right? And integrity is one way that we can think about wholeness, being able to be in integrity with ourselves, with our commitments, and our agreements. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the role emotional intelligence plays, and then Gina's going to take us through what it means to create impeccable agreements, to take healthy responsibility, and to consciously communicate that with the people in our lives. So if we think about emotional intelligence, often in Western corporate settings, we are told to only function with this part of our bodies. Like it's very cognitive, it's very linear, it's very mind over matter, that your intellect rules everything. And we know that that is not your only center of intelligence, right? Your emotional state provides a lot of feedback, your body state, right? The sensations in your body. You know, if you're walking around with your shoulders crunched and a queasy anxiety feeling in your chest, something's not quite allowing you to be in full presence and integrity. And so one of the ways we can think about how can my emotional state actually give me some feedback about whether I am creating a healthy ecosystem for myself is to begin to notice what emotions are present as we are engaged with different aspects of our lives. So beginning to notice if you are feeling resentment as you're showing up to work, or as you're showing up to a relationship, or as you're showing up to something you said yes to. Maybe you feel fear, right? Or you feel guilt and you're shoulding yourself into, I need to do this because I said I would, and I should be this for this person. It might also show up as resentment, as anger, as frustration. Part of the work that we do as coaches is really facilitate conversations within Confluent of like, when you actually stop doing all the stuff and allow yourself enough space to just pause and get really clear about, are you well? Like, are you well in addition to all the things that you're trying to achieve? Is that we grow our self-awareness because we have access to more information inside of ourselves. So I want to pass it over to Gina. She's going to take us through these other three. But I just want to see, Gina, is there anything you want to add on to emotional intelligence before you dive in?
No, I think that's great what you covered. Yeah, beautiful. Thanks. Yeah, so looking at the 4 pillars, the next section is impeccable agreements. So what is a clear agreement? Who's going to do what by when? And throughout our days, we make these agreements all the time. So an example would be a friend calls and says, "Hey, let's meet for dinner." And we say, "Sure, yeah, that's great." But that day we've also had 3 hours of classes. We've worked for 4 hours, and we also have a group project due at the end of by tomorrow. And we're sitting here thinking, even though we said yes earlier, we can feel the pressure, we can feel the emotions coming up. Something's not aligned with what is here now. So the important thing is to check in with ourselves and see what we have a yes to, a maybe to, and a no to. So for right now is we're going to do a little interactive experience. Get out a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to make 3 columns. And in one column, I want you to write yes. The middle column, I want you to write maybe. And the last column, I want you to write no. And what we're going to do is pull up your calendar. And over the next week or 2 weeks, I want you to look at your calendar and look at all the things in your calendar: home, work, life, personal life, friendships, and write down all your obligations. Yes, I want to meet, Allison for dinner on Friday night. It's the end of the week. Absolutely. Do I really want to work that extra shift? No, I don't want to take on that extra assignment that, Travis asked me to do. And write it in the 3 columns to get a sense of what you're actually agreeing to. So we're going to set the timer for 2.5 minutes, and go ahead and do that now. Feel free to use the chat or the question and answer to put anything if you aren't understanding. We have about a minute left. Okay. We have just a few moments left. Just kind of wrap it up. And hopefully you have enough in the on your document to kind of play with this. So a lot of times what we talk about, Allison spoke about being present and being here so that we have access to all of our intelligence centers, all of our data. We operate throughout our day unconsciously. We're in, head up, we're in our thinking center, we are going. And our invitation in finding balance and getting in integrity with ourselves is slowing down and really having discernment around what we want to do versus what we have to do, what we don't want to do. So you might have a couple things in your yes column, your no column, your maybe column. What I want you to do is ask yourself, look at your yes column right now and check in. When you look at each one, are you like, does your energy go up? Is it flat or does it go down? And then do the same for the no. So I did this not just recently, and I was asked to, I had a super full day and I was asked to go to a barbecue. And it was at the end of the day after I'd done a bunch of stuff. And I sat there going, I know I said yes, I agreed to go, but I actually don't want to. And I felt heavy. I felt pressure on my chest, my shoulders. And so noticing what is happening in our body while we're making agreements is a really good indicator to help us understand what we actually want to do and don't want to do. And I hear you saying maybe, yeah, but Gina, I should do this or I have to do this. Okay. Yeah, there are some things that you have to do, not a problem. But notice how many have tos and ask yourself the question, is it 100% true that you have to? Can you delegate it? Can you defer it? Can you delete it? Get really clear with yourself. Get in integrity. I had a brilliant woman that I've worked with, a mentor, talk about how if we look at your spinal cord and the energy that runs through your spinal cord, and imagine your spinal cord is like a hose, and there's holes in the hose when we're out of integrity with ourselves or with others around agreements. And the reason we do this exercise is to get in integrity so we have full aliveness. So looking at your list and asking, where have I made an agreement to do something, myself or someone else, that I don't have a yes to anymore? Allison, did I miss anything around that? Any thoughts on that?
My only additional thought, I love the defer, delegate, delete. And I'd also say, where can you ask for help?
Yes.
Like, where can you actually invite somebody else in and say, I don't have capacity for this anymore?
Yeah, the big H word.
Yeah.
Can we ask for help? That's a hard one for me sometimes. Okay, y'all. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the idea of what is taking healthy responsibility. We just did all this work of the things of what we, yes, no, maybe, but what is actually ours to do? And where do we want to go with it? So that's this idea of looking at your list. And a lot of times this isn't necessarily going to happen in your yes, but maybe your no's and your maybe list. Are you blaming anyone? Well, I told that person she can't handle it. I told her I would do it. Check in with yourself. Get really clear. And taking your 100% responsibility, no more, no less, is trusting that the other person is just as capable as you are. And would you be willing to go through and ask for help or delegate, delete, defer, to get rid of it, to get back in balance for yourself? And sometimes we take more than our 100% responsibility because we feel like we need to do this. We have to do this. And again, I asked you the question, is it 100% true that you have to do this right now or at all. And giving yourself permission to let go and get into that balance. I love the visual of all the dots and how literally life gets eclipsed. Because where in there are we saying yes to too many things? And how is saying no just as aligned as saying yes? So lastly, where we're at is in the last column or the last section is conscious communication. So in looking at all the things that are on your list, get clear with yourself and others, and what conversations might you need to initiate, to talk about? What are you not saying, and are you willing to say it? Are you willing to get curious? Maybe you've made an agreement to do something with someone and they actually don't have a yes either, but both of you are saying yes because that's what we do, right? Maybe instead of going out, hey, let's sit and just watch a movie and maybe do some homework or something. That's multitasking again, but you know what I'm saying. So in the chat, if you have a moment, go ahead and let me know any insights you have, next steps, any conversations you need to have, or anything you want to delete, defer, delegate, or ask for help about. Or any questions you might have about what we've talked about so far.
I've activated our nifty Q&A feature, y'all, so there is a question posted. As you have a chance to reflect, you can add them on there.
Yeah. What I love about working at Confluent Health is we have these classes and things that we can take to support us. And Allison's going to go into a little further around what we offer as learning and development. But this piece right here has really supported me in getting an integrity and finding the balance in my own life. So
Yeah.
Allison, go ahead and share a little more.
I appreciate you saying that, Gina, because I think ultimately we can find a job, but if we can't actually sustain ourselves in the job, it's, I don't want to say it's for naught, but it may not actually be aligned with what we're really looking to create. So the last thing I'd like to share with everybody here on the screen, part of the work that we do in the learning and development team is provide professional and personal development. So these are 6 of our primary courses around leadership development. You'll notice that they're all different lengths. Some are for individual growth and development. Some happen in teams. And so there's opportunity for some self-paced introduction, right? It's a 1-month program to be able to sort of pace yourself through some introductory lessons. There's opportunity for 10-week leadership training. And a lot of these for PTs and OTs are folks that are interested in becoming clinic directors. So you have the opportunity to understand, how do I delegate? How do I manage and support and supervise? How do I engage in crucial conversations when something's off in my clinic? And I was in a team meeting this morning where somebody says, I was dumbfounded at how the things I learned in that class translated to my parenting, translated to my relationships outside of work. We also have a 9-month manager course for folks that are interested in going maybe from a clinic director role to a regional director role. We have ongoing peer leadership coaching groups and also one-on-one coaching, which this is part of one of the benefits of the company. It's not something you have to pay extra for to be able to access. So there's a lot of rich resources to support you at different stages of your development. And I see here we got one comment, so I'm going to read it out loud. I really love the idea of checking in with your energy to determine whether or not you're going to keep an engagement and that you don't have to keep it. I'm going to keep this in mind moving forward. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Any closing words, Gina, before we toss it back to Allison and Emily?
Just remember to take a big, deep breath and check in with yourself. That is my invitation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.